Tommie, welcome to Built Different. I'm so glad you're on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show, and it's been awesome to get to know you over the last couple of years and be able to collaborate on some fun stuff together and just have this opportunity to get into your whole story a lot more. So where did it all begin? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Oh, okay. Right into the
Right-
birth,
right into
my
the
birth
birth.
story.
Yeah,
Okay,
right
when
into
I
the
was born. Okay, I was born and raised in the Capital Region.
Okay.
I was born in Schenectady at Ellis, and I grew up, actually when I was younger, I lived in Amsterdam for a few years, but we moved in, I think I was probably like 3, and we moved to Rotterdam, and that's where I grew up. I went to Mahanason through all my school years. That's where I graduated from. 2011, I graduated from Mahanason. And I've really kind of been local ever since then. I've bopped around a little bit on where I've lived in the Capital Region. But yeah, Rotterdam.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up in the Capital Region, I feel is such a defining thing for a lot of people who really did, grow up here. There's a pride about it. You mentioned Mahanason. People feel like they have their high school that they went to. So what was that like for you, really having roots here and growing up here?
Yeah, I do feel a connection to a lot of the local places and even Schenectady, and I'm really proud of Schenectady, especially recently. Schenectady is where my home studio is. Studio 4 is like my home studio. It's where I teach Pilates, barre, and yoga. Obviously, yoga's my jam.
Yep.
And Schenectady is, I think there's a lot that's up and coming about Schenectady. There's
Definitely.
proctors and there's some really great events. And honestly, that's where I've kind of built this community that I have in the Capital Region. And I think the Capital Region has a really incredible fitness and wellness community. So it's been nice to be a part of that and kind of grow with it. And even I went to UAlbany, so even when I went to college, I never really went far away. I was close to home. I like that security blanket of being close to home.
Yeah.
And I have friends and family here. Like a lot of the people, my friends that I'm friends with, I've been friends with since we've been friends since kindergarten. So we went to high school together, and everybody stayed local for the most part. So now our kids are having kids, and it's second generation of little babes running around now.
It's awesome to see how you kind of tied into the Capital Region you've always been and continue to be so committed to the community. And you mentioned UAlbany, and I remember we were both promoting the New York Fitness and Wellness Expo, and we both wrote blogs for it and shared kind of stories about it. And you had talked about kind of your journey within college, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like that may have been where you kind of really found yoga as a passion. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So this is one of my favorite things to talk about. And if I'm being just quite honest, when I was in college, even like late high school, early college, I was just in not a good place. I had really poor self-image. I had poor body image. I struggled with self-worth. And a lot of the decisions that I was making during that time was rooted in those feelings and those beliefs about myself. But I've always been an active person. So in high school, I was a cheerleader. I loved movement. I was a dancer. So that's always been a part of my life. But when I got to college, I discovered yoga. So I was going to vinyasa classes for the first time, and I have this pivotal moment that I always talk about. It comes up over and over again, but it really is this pivotal moment for me. I was in a Warrior 2 pose, and if you know yoga, you know that Warrior 2 is like a power pose. So you have a wide stance, your arms are wide, your abs are pulled in, your shoulders are down, it's powerful. And I remember looking in the mirror, and I saw myself in that pose. And for the first time in years, I liked the way I looked in the mirror. And that was different for me, because any other time I looked in the mirror, it was, oh, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. What can I do to fix this? Like, anytime I saw my own reflection, it was negative self-talk. So for me to look in that mirror and see myself and not have something negative come into my mind, I was like, okay, this is interesting. But the most interesting part about that moment in time was it wasn't, oh, I like the way that my arms look, or oh, I like the way that my stomach looks. I liked the way that I looked strong and powerful. So it wasn't about the physical reflection. It was about this feeling, this energy that I was in. And for me, that's when I realized, I was like, okay, yoga is way deeper than just the physical poses, the physical practice. And at that moment, it just kind of clicked to me that there was a lot more to it. And I didn't do anything with that realization for years. It took me so long to get to a point to actually do something about that realization. But that is where I realized that it's so deep. It's so deep.
You've said a lot there, and I want to unpack a lot of what you've just laid out. You talked about poor self-image and your kind of relationship with yourself. When you look back at that version of you, where do you think some of that came from?
Ooh. Okay. I had this group of friends that I have. We have experienced kind of a wild, and I don't talk about this a lot, it's not just my story to tell, but my core group of girlfriends, we have experienced a ton of loss in our lives. And my dad was the first. All of us have lost a parent before the age of 30, which is kind of crazy for a group of 7 people, 7 good friends, to all lose one parent before the age of 30. But it doesn't stop there. It's multiple. So there's step parents that we've lost. There's parents. Like everyone has lost someone. And it started, my dad was the first one that we lost. So I was in 7th grade when my dad passed away. And from that point on, like every year, a parent passed away. So we had this like huge loss over and over and over again. We were just always at funerals. We were always at wakes. And I do think that losing my dad, like my mom and my dad were together. They had an incredible relationship. I never heard my parents fight. They truly loved each other. Like I remember it being like the relationships that you just want to see. Like they really did love each other. And I think losing my dad in that really sensitive time period of 7th, 8th grade, when you're already like just a lot's going on emotionally in that time period, that middle school time period. I think losing him definitely left a part of me wanting like some type of like validation or worthiness that I had this beautiful family, and then that piece of it got away from me. And I think looking for like attention in the wrong places too, and a little bit of acting out. And I had this mentality of the world sucks. Why did this happen to me? Why did my dad, who loved me, who was an amazing guy, he did stuff for charity, he had an amazing relationship with my mom, he was a great dad, like why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to us? And I feel like that kind of like I just had this rebellion of I don't know. Yeah. And I think that created it was like the perfect storm.
So when was that moment when you looked at yourself in the mirror and something clicked that you really were more in love with who you are?
Yeah, so that was my freshman year of college. So 7th grade, freshman year of college. And so that was a long time. And again, that loss, I think, just like stacked on and on and on. And I think there was like different ways of coping with the loss that will also make you not feel good about yourself. And really, it did go through like my early 20s. And I think around COVID time, I used that time to actually get my yoga teacher training. So I worked in events. I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but I worked in events in the event industry. So that was the first thing to go in COVID, and it was the last thing to come back. Their parties were not a thing. So I was off. I was laid off for like over a year, and I didn't know. We remember you just like didn't even know if like we were ever going to be able to gather again. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I had no idea what my job was going to look like. So I was like, well, I kind of like this. I like working out, and I really have been liking yoga. And Michelle from Studio 4, she had a yoga training happening in 2021. I did it in the spring. And that is when it was like hit the ground running. That was the pivotal moment where I was like, I need to change things about me, and I need to change things about my life. And I want to be better. I want to be better than what I am, because I feel like I can be, and I want to be.
I want to double down on that question. Well, that answer, because I feel like that is such a common thread with anyone that really falls in love with having fitness as a foundation in their life. At a certain point, things start clicking. They have the confidence to pursue other things in their life. So for you, can you walk me through kind of what kind of happened for you as you started to really feel that momentum through yoga?
Yeah. And this is why I love yoga so much, because in yoga teacher training, we dive into so much more than the physical practice of yoga. And I feel like I really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like identify with the way that the information is presented in terms of, so there's these things called like the yamas and the niyamas, and they're basically a moral code of how to live. And it can apply to really any religion or spiritual basis. It's more so just like, for example, ahimsa is one of the moral codes, and it just means do no harm. So across all religions, that's basically the first thing that you're told: you do no harm. And learning about that kind of like how deep yoga is more than just your 60 minutes when you're in class. It's how you live your life, and these little things that just really transformed me from the inside out. And I think that that is something that so many people are missing in the fitness journey that they have, because people only think about the physical, and no one, I shouldn't say no one, but I think it's very common to not take care of the mental and spiritual. And then you're wondering why you're not getting results, but you have to tap into all three of those. I personally believe, because I think when I was in college doing my yoga and stuff, that was probably like my unhealthiest. I was still working out. I was still moving. I was still going to yoga. Didn't look healthy. Didn't feel healthy. Wasn't making healthy choices. So once I dived into the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and started taking care of that stuff, that's when I like started to see physical changes.
Yeah. Now, physically, have you sort of always relatively been in your current body type?
No, I mean, I've always been like thin, like on the thinner side, the smaller side, I guess. But it's so funny. I wish I could like pull some pictures from college. But like I was like bloated, inflamed. I had an eating disorder. So, and I think that's something important to touch on too. I don't think looking at me, you would have assumed that I had an eating disorder, because I wasn't skin and bones by any means. I was also drinking a lot, so that plays a role in your physical appearance. But no, and what's even more interesting is like right now, I feel like I'm probably at the strongest that I've ever been. And I also think that came from like I somehow got stronger after having a baby, because I like got to know my body better. I understood breath. I understood control, and I don't know, but I I've not always been in like where I am right now. So I think I'm the strongest I've ever been.
As a guy, I often feel sometimes inadequate to understand truly
Hmm.
eating disorders. I mean, obviously there are some men that go through eating disorders, but my understanding is disproportionately women are
Hmm.
really the ones that kind of deal with this. And what should people generally know, especially guys who are looking to be supportive to women they love, about eating disorders?
That's a great, great question. Um, I think the one of the things that I really struggled with is, and I still do sometimes, is people commenting on how much I'm eating or how much I'm not eating. Like I still get really triggered by that. So I think being mindful of talking about, I don't know, it's almost like a generational thing because I feel like the older generation like really pushes, um, like when you're eating and people are like, oh, you must be really hungry today. Like, why? You know what I like? Why?
Yeah.
Or if you're not eating enough and they're like, have another, have another. And to me, it's just like it's a great thing to talk about food and like enjoy food together, but I'm very sensitive to people like observing what I'm eating and how much I'm eating. And I think that's something to be mindful of. And of course, talking about, I mean, it's so tough, but like only commenting on people's body and appearance. And I struggle with this too, but I really try not to say to people, "Oh, you look great, you've lost weight." Because that ties that like you can only look great in a certain way. I don't know. I just try and be mindful of the verbiage I'm using and also try and focus more on other nice things I could say or um strength, things like that you can talk about that maybe aren't so directly related or related to weight loss. And I'm interested to hear how you feel about this because obviously you did have a huge, so
Yeah.
like, do you feel like you love being validated? Like, well, like by someone saying, wow, you look great, you've lost a ton of weight.
It cuts both ways. I think for me, it's a continually kind of rediscovering like kind of an identity because I was very skinny when I was younger.
Okay.
And so I kind of look at it like I'm building my relationship with myself and the body type that I always wanted to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more so sometimes it just feels like your relationship with certain people has changed. It's more so that I feel like a lot of people in my life who maybe had a sense of me before I went through
Mm-hmm.
my journey. Sometimes, like when you are making progress in your life, I don't care what it is, when you start really succeeding in your life, there's certain people that get intimidated by that.
Yeah.
And your relationships change and they don't really know how to talk about it. But going back to the mental emotional stuff, being overweight for as long as I was, there was traumas of things of lost, in my mind, lost experiences, lost opportunities. And I was going to ask you, were there moments in yoga that you feel like you had real emotional breakthroughs? You talked about the physical breakthrough, looking yourself in the mirror, because I know I've had a lot.
In yoga.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like
It's
I've
amazing.
I've wept and
Wept.
oh yeah, wept, tears, tears.
So this is another thing I really love to talk about too. But like, have you had the crying hip opening experience?
Yeah. Oh, I
Okay.
get that. I yes, I've had the crying
Yes.
the hip openers.
Yeah. So that is always something crazy to me. And this was another moment that I had in college when I was taking hot yoga classes and I was doing a hip flow, like a hip opener. It was like a hip opener class. Like it was always focused on the hips. And I was doing the flow and all of a sudden I was like sobbing and I had no idea why. And like that was the first time I was like, what just happened? So I like talked to the instructor after. Her name's Amy. And funny enough, years down the road, she took my prenatal yoga classes recently. I know,
amazing.
isn't that so good? And I was like, Amy, I got it. Do you remember? I messaged her because I was like, something happened when we were doing yoga. I just started crying and I don't really know why, but it was like a huge release.
Yeah.
And to me, that like it just blows my mind, the connection between the physical and the emotional. Have you read The Body Keeps the Score?
I've heard of it. I have not read it.
Okay. It's very heavy. I've never read it front to back because of the content that's really heavy in it. It's not something that like, it's not a joyful read by any means, but it does talk about how like traumatic experiences like manifest in your body and how your body can physically react to things.
Sure.
And I just think that that's so true. And I've had my own personal experiences with that. And those like hip opening moments are just so crazy. And I read an article, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical, I don't know. This is just generally speaking what I'm summarizing in the article.
Yeah, disclaimer, medical disclaimer for all those listening. Tommie is not a doctor.
I'm not a doctor. So like your kidneys are kind of nestled behind your hips in anatomy, and your kidneys are the organ that releases your fight or flight hormone. Okay. So it releases this hormone, and then that energy, that emotion. So the emotion you're feeling when your kidneys are releasing that hormone is probably stress, elevated, like what's being released to tell my body I'm like nervous about something. This emotion is energy in motion. So the emotions that you're having in your body like can get kind of trapped in like tight hips, tight muscles, tight joints, this energy. So then when you're doing a hip opener, it creates space, and that energy is like, it needs somewhere to go, and it comes up and you cry.
When this first got explained to me, I thought this was the most like hippy dippy ooga booga thing.
So
and I'm like, no, it's like, yeah,
but
woo woo,
like
so woo woo. But it's legit.
It really is.
It is so legit. And I remember very much having some breakthroughs kind of right at the cusp of this big goal I had of losing 200 pounds in 500 days in the summer of 2023. And I was really obsessive about running across the finish line. And I was doing some yoga classes at Anatomy.
Okay.
And Sachi, who I just adore, she's one of my favorite yoga instructors in the capital region. I jokingly say she has Sachi sense. Like she just kind of sees a room and just knows exactly who needs like a hands-on adjustment or a hands-on assist, depending on which terminology you want to use in the studio.
Can I plug something for that really quick?
Please.
Okay, Studio 4 is hosting a hands-on adjustments workshop at the end of April. So if you're a yoga teacher, and you want to explore that, come do this training. I'm really excited. 2 teachers who we have teaching there. One is Cheryl and one's Tanya, but they are Baptiste teachers. And have you taken Baptiste?
Yeah,
okay.
love Baptiste.
So they're big on like the Baptiste practice is big on hands-on assists.
Yep.
So they're going to be training teachers to do hands-on assists.
I love Baptiste. It just feels like kind of samurai yoga to me. Just like true like warrior training.
And it's like, I like it because it's the same thing every time. So you can really get like, you can just like be in that moment. And like, you don't have to be like so much listening to, like when I teach a vinyasa flow, you have to kind of listen to what I'm saying because it's flowy and it's like, it's not as regimented, you know.
Vinyasa to me is like jazz of yoga.
Yes.
I just like most of the time I'm down to jam and just feel it out and go with
and
it.
that's why like your body sometimes like you will just like, oh, your right leg just like wants to lift up, and you know what I mean? Like your body is very in tune with what it wants or what it needs.
Yeah.
In vinyasa, I think.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite. I mean, Bikram is once in a while I like it. I kind of jokingly think about it as liturgical yoga. You know, it's like growing up Episcopalian. It just feels familiar. You know, you go through the 26 of poses and you can judge it out. And some people I feel like just feel like it's so hardcore because of the temperature and everything. They really get into it that way.
I like that for the mind challenge. That's the same reason why I like to cold plunge. Like if I need a mental challenge, like if I'm in my head about something or I need like a break from something, that's what I'm gonna go towards, like a Bikram class or a cold plunge or something where like the only thing you're thinking about right now is what you're doing because you can't think about anything else.
But just thinking about Sachi and when she laid hands on me, it just there was this. I wanted to go back to that because I wanted to touch on for you. What happened for me was this very powerful emotional release. And just deep sense of safety and security that everything was going to be okay, that whatever pain or trauma I might have felt or dealt with was gone. You could move on. You could be fully present in the here and the now. And that's something like I feel like I grew up Episcopalian. I grew up fairly religious, but I feel like
So is that, and I am have like this,
yeah,
I love to talk about religion. I
yeah,
love it and I hate it because I get a little like, I'm just so interested in it.
yeah,
But so that's, you're saying Episcopalian?
yeah.
That's Christian?
It is. So I'll use the Robin Williams joke. So it's
Okay.
Catholic light, same rituals, but only half the guilt.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
like Diet
Okay.
Catholic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's like pieces of
Do you do
Catholicism.
like
There's
communion?
pieces. Yeah. There's
Okay.
communion in it. Well, it's like it jokingly goes all well, not jokingly. It more really nerd out historically on it for anyone who really wants to do a deep dive on this. It goes back to Henry VIII
Okay.
because Henry VIII wanted to get his marriage annulled, and so he had to create his own church to let it happen.
Oh.
So
That's boss.
it's kind of boss, you could go through the various wives he had, but it's evolved
Yeah.
since then. But I feel like in my life now, I'm in this very much wrestling with faith and spirituality, and yoga. Yoga is like the arena of spirituality for me.
Yeah. I'm happy that you brought that up. This is something that I have always struggled with. It's something that I almost feel like if there's a quiet moment in my brain, I'm thinking about like existential religious questions. And I've had a hard time because I grew up Catholic. And then I say practice, that's how I speak now, like a yoga practice religion, but I was like in a Christian church that was, I don't even know the like sub format of what it was, but it was very hardcore. I went on a mission trip to Africa, to Uganda. I was very into it. And I think it was a little too much for me. There was just some things that didn't align or didn't make sense to me. So I pulled back on that. But I've always just faith and spirituality has always been something that I always ask questions about. I have so many questions, and the uncertainty is so difficult for me. And I understand that's what faith is not having something certain. But I did struggle when I started with yoga, because in the Christian community, some people say you shouldn't do yoga if you're a Christian. And I just that bothered me. I felt like I was doing something wrong or immoral by practicing yoga. And I've talked to people about it. Sabrina.
Very much so.
Okay, so she was my mentor in this. I'll call her and I'm like, Sabrina, I need you to explain to me how can it be both? And she's amazing at that. And I've done my own research, and I finally just been at peace with the fact that your spiritual and relationship and your faith it's yours. It's personal, and it doesn't need to fit everybody else's, and it certainly doesn't need to fit Google's definition of it. And
I've always believed work is worship from a spiritual standpoint. And I think the act of every workout for me increasingly feels like an act of worship.
I could not agree more. There is something holy about movement for me. I love it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it saved me, and it does save me. And without it, I have this energy that needs to go somewhere. And if it doesn't, I'm not in the right, I need to be more balanced out.
Yeah. I mean, movement is medicine is a great t-shirt. It's a great tank top, but it's very true. It really is true.
It is the truth.
And I think that goes to the fact that, for some of the kind of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual stuff we've been talking about, especially, I know so many women that do not present physically like there's anything wrong mentally, physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that's where it's sort of happening. How can people, I guess from your mind, have a better acknowledgement or a better handle of how to help people who they may feel like are struggling mentally or emotionally? What can we do? Because I just feel sometimes we don't know. People can present that they're perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden somebody we love commits suicide or is just struggling with depression, and we don't see it.
Don't know. Yeah. That's a great question. And I think it just comes down to being support, like knowing that, reiterating that you're here, and for someone, even maybe without the, do you want to talk about it? Because I feel like sometimes maybe people don't even want to talk about it, but they just need to feel supported, and that like if they need you, you're there. And it's interesting because we were talking about the hands-on assists, but isn't it interesting how just like sometimes in a yoga class, that physical touch is so healing. You don't have to say a word. And that's what it's about. It's about someone being there. And there's been times when I have one teacher who, her name's Jen. She teaches at Studio 4. And she just like, every time I take her class, like, and she does a hands-on assist, I feel so safe. And I just, for me, that's kind of like, now I talk to her about like, because she's just made me feel so safe and that's just by her being there, or that like light touch. And it's really incredible.
Yeah. I mean, working out in community for me, I feel like is such a big, important piece of being surrounded by that energy. I like to think of this concept of angels for one another. I think all of us, whether we're spiritual or not, we're capable of that. And especially when my dad died last year, it really changed the way I even had to approach my own fitness.
Yeah.
You know, before I would be kind of the Yelp gym guy going around and having fun and promoting all these different things, but I had to be really making sure I was taking care of myself. And so now I pretty much just go to Metabolic 6 days a week and do hot yoga spot. And it's pretty consistent, but I just felt like for me, the energy of the room and just the people was so important.
So
and it's nothing
powerful
against any other fitness community. There's amazing fitness communities all over the capital region. Lord knows we know a lot of them between the two of us.
Yeah.
But energy is real.
It's so real. And I think that's why for me, I don't love at-home yoga practice.
Yeah.
There's something very special to me about going to a certain place, like the studio, the warm air, the sound, the look, the people. There's something so special about that, and practicing with other people it's just such a different experience. So I would encourage people, if you are someone who you're like, oh, I do yoga at home, I encourage you to go to a studio and get the studio experience, because I completely agree. Or like, you know, when you're in a class and there's like an ohm that just at the end and I don't do an ohm usually.
Yeah.
But I know some teachers who do. I'm like scared to do an ohm. So I'm making it a commitment that in 2025, I will close class with an ohm one time. I'm just so nervous to like sing the ohm.
I feel like you just got to do it your way. Like even with yoga, when I see instructors just doing it the way they do it, that
that's
makes
the most
me feel
authentic.
good.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just funny because like going back to your comments about like people who are Christians being so, kind of yoga, like you don't have to say namaste.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you don't have, like you can choose your own adventure.
Right. Yeah. And that's a great part of a yoga practice is it's like, it's you. Do what you want.
And I just think allowing yourself, it's amazing to me how I feel like so many people live life and they try to force a feeling on everything rather than responding to natural energy and events, whether good or bad.
Yeah.
Just being present and feeling it.
Yeah, that's a doozy, but
that's where
you got to do it.
But that's where I've seen my father in meditation and yoga. And so like I don't seek it out, but there have been times since the passing where I feel like again, like that's where I've felt his presence.
That's beautiful.
In a yoga class. But going back to kind of energy in the classroom, I want to touch on, because you teach a lot of different types of stuff, well beyond yoga.
Yeah.
I know you do Pilates and barre, recently got certified in spin.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through kind of what's your relationship with those other disciplines?
Yeah. Huge fan of Pilates. Pilates is really cool. I know you've done Pilates, but Pilates is another one that's a mind-body connection. So when people say to me, Pilates isn't hard or Pilates isn't a workout, my first response is, you're not doing it right, because it takes so much time and mind-body connection. So it's super low impact, but you have to be present in your mind and your body to be doing the movements correct. So ideally in a Pilates practice, a lot of what we're focusing on is a stable pelvis. So I'm trying to think of an exercise that might be easy to visualize. I'll talk about one leg circles. So you have one leg extended and one leg up in the air doing circles, but everyone's just like throwing this leg around like crazy. And it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about keeping your pelvis stable and moving your limbs and seeing how your core can control that movement. So Pilates is something that takes a lot of practice, but I will say Pilates is my favorite thing to teach. Why? Because I can see a physical transformation in like 3 weeks. If you do Pilates every week or whatever, I have a couple like private clients, the stability that I see in them, I can physically see it with my eyes, and I just don't feel like you get that in a lot of other modalities.
It's interesting you say that because Nahar at Pilates Principle, who I love, and I've done a lot of stuff with her, like she said a similar thing to me.
Did she?
Yeah. Like basically, I think like 10 or 12 classes,
Yes.
something like that. And I saw the same thing. Like I don't really do Pilates as much right now, but when I do it, I'm always glad that I did.
Yeah.
For core especially.
Yes.
And I will never understand why more guys can't get over like doing it. It's such a great compliment to weight training.
Absolutely. Your form will improve. And I also think Pilates is one of the things that you can really benefit from, even if you don't do like a ton of one-on-one sessions, like invest in a couple like one-on-one private sessions or like small group sessions so that your instructor can give you a lot of individual attention, because that's how you're going to benefit the most from it. You know, so if you do it with like 2 or 3 people as opposed to like a group class, I think it's really beneficial.
When I was in LA visiting my mom for the holidays, there's a Wunderbar studio that's like right around the corner from her apartment. Have you done Wunderbar like in the city? So it's like a branded, like franchised Pilates
like
chain. They have, they built like a kind of utility, basically Pilates mechanism that combines like a wounded chair, reformer, tower, Cadillac. It's all within like one thing. And you just do all these crazy exercises within like 45 minutes.
Wow.
But I know it's Studio 4. You have all sorts of equipment there.
Yeah.
In Schenectady. What kinds of stuff do you have there?
We have the tower, we have reformers, we have Cadillacs, we have wonder chairs, we have like all this it's like a full Pilates studio.
Yeah,
so
and it's right in downtown Schenectady.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful studio. And we also, that's where I teach barre. So barre is, so like Pilates is like low impact, very chill, no music traditionally. So I'm classically Pilates trained, which means there's just a difference. There's contemporary Pilates and classical Pilates. So classical Pilates, you usually don't have music going.
Yep.
So that's something that's a little bit more strict. And then you come to my barre class and it's party time. Like it is playlist central. It is let's dance. It is let's have fun. Let's enjoy being here for 45. Not that you don't enjoy Pilates, but it's just a different vibe. Like my barre classes are a party vibe. And I want people on Wednesday nights to like know they're going to come have a good time. We're going to laugh. We're going to sweat. We're going to listen to throwback music.
Yeah.
And that's the high energy. That's where I get a lot of like my high energy out.
Yeah.
Which I'm hoping will be similar to spin as well.
Yeah.
Different modality, obviously, in a different way of coaching, because one of the things I've been attracted to about spin is this, like, they're very motivational. Like, it's a culture where like the ride isn't about, it is about the ride, but it's also a mental thing. Like there's a lot of like self-help and motivation in spin culture right now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I know you just started doing some spin classes at Best Fitness, and like I've done a lot of them there too.
Yeah.
And like there's a very particular culture there.
Yes.
Within the spin classes.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And shout out to Taylor Hill with Spin Fusion 2.0.
Oh,
like
she's amazing.
That's a cool class by itself.
Yes. And I love that too, because it's like you get bike and then some body weight TRX stuff.
Yeah.
Also this girl, Emily, who I feel like she's just like a kindred spirit to me. We just are on the same page about stuff. But this girl is so intentional with her classes and her playlists, and like she curates.
Was that Emily Moore?
Yeah.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Amazing. She curates like the most cool, well thought out. Like you can just tell she's putting time and effort into the experience that she's giving her students. And like, I love that.
So you may not know this story. I was in her class and she planned this out to the T. So she created a playlist Didn't tell anybody what it was, but it was all themes. It was all songs that had like the word baby in it or like a
Okay.
baby references.
Wait, you were in her
I
baby
was in the
announcement
baby
class?
announcement class. That's when I did a little content piece with
That's
her with Bess.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was
Wow.
so wild. And then I started figuring out about halfway through, I was like, this woman is brilliant.
She's amazing. But
Yeah.
like that's so I love that. And that kind of ties back to like my event industry.
Yeah.
Like I've put so much energy into the experience for people. So like when people come to my classes, I want it to be an experience. So I want it not to just like, you're not just showing up and like no, there's intention behind everything. There's intention behind the music I choose. There's intention behind the poses I choose. There's intention behind what I talk about in class that day. There's intention in the essential oils that I use during Shavasana. It's an experience, and I want to deliver that to people when they come to my classes. I want it to be memorable, and I want you to feel something. I don't want you to just feel like I Googled Vinyasa flow and taught it to you.
Yeah, I've seen that firsthand
Mhm.
with stuff with classes that I've taken that you've led. And like, I even remember like outdoor, Pilates bar class where it was just like time to the beat.
Yeah.
Like, why is that so important to you to kind of deliver on something like that for people?
For me, I have so much fun, and I think making it like, who doesn't love going out and, well, I'm sure some people don't, but like going out and dancing, and I find so much joy in that.
Yeah.
And I want people to want to come back. So for me, I think you have to find something movement wise that you love to do, and that the people that you're doing it with make you feel good and make you like want to be around them, because that's what brings you back again and again and again. Because modalities are, you could take a bar class one place, you could take it another place, but it's the person teaching that is either going to speak to you and make you feel a certain way, or speak to you and make you feel a certain way,
Yeah.
So to me, I always want people to have this like fun. I want it to be an escape for people. I want it to go by so quick that you don't even know you're working out,
Yeah.
but you're going to be sore the next day.
Yeah. I mean, you've approached a lot of things clearly with real intention and a heart to serve people and really wanting to just give something meaningful to people. And I know this book that you've recently come out with is another reflection of that for you. What led you to deciding that you wanted to write a book, and specifically more of a children's book?
Yeah, I am super excited about the book. It's called Being Me is Special, and it's a head to toe yoga practice that ideally in my head, I wanted families to be able to do together. So it would be something that you take off your bookshelf in the morning and everybody does the head to toe yoga practice together. You start your morning with some movement, some breath. And it's kind of funny how this all happened. I went to UAlbany, but I never finished my degree. So I had like a few credits left to get a bachelor's degree. And I was like, I should probably just get my bachelor's degree. Like, it's good to have, whatever. I didn't know what was going to happen with my job. So I went back to college, got my bachelor's degree, and decided that I was going to teach kindergarten. So I got an early childhood education degree. So I finished it, I graduated, and then I found out you needed a master's to teach kindergarten. And I was like,
That's where they get you.
I'm like, I'm not citing another paper. So no, I guess I'm not going to be a kindergarten teacher. So now I have this bachelor's degree in my pocket. I've done lesson planning and learned about all the ways to teach kids. And then I started teaching yoga. And as soon as I graduated from YTT, from yoga teacher training, I had a library reach out to me and was like, our summer yoga instructor can't do it. Would you be willing to teach family yoga? I was like, yep. I'd never done it, never thought about it. I was like, yes, 100%, because I was just saying yes to any opportunity that came my way. So I started teaching it, and I just like niched into it. I put everything that I knew from early childhood education and yoga together and started coming up with like really thought out classes for kids and like how to get them engaged and how to make yoga fun. And I started teaching them, and there's this huge need for it and people love it. So that's been one of the bigger ways that I've found that I can create like a sustainable income teaching yoga, is having these like kids classes, kids pop-up events, because it's just not as popular right now. Like, there's not as many people who are doing it. So I was teaching kids yoga for like 3 years, and I always included a literary element in my classes. And there's some really cool kids yoga books out there, but a lot of them are focused on just the physical. And it's always like animal poses, which super cute. time and place, absolutely. I do that all the time. I use animal poses in my classes, but I wanted something that integrated mind, body, spirit for the kids, because that's what I think if we could like get that in at a young age, then they won't have to unpack all the stuff that we have had to unpack.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just so important to me. So I swear I had this like download one day. I was like, I got thinking I wanted to write a book. And then one day I just like the rhythm came to me and I just took out my iPhone and started typing it down. And I knew I wanted it to be like everything integrated, like chakra, energy systems, head to toe, yoga practice. And each yoga pose has an element of gratitude. So you do a yoga pose and you say thank you to the body part. So like I say thank you to, I love, one of the first things is I love my steady feet. I feel the earth below. I say thank you to my feet when I stand in mountain pose. And then it goes through your legs, your hips, your belly.
When you were writing that, you think that might have been a way for you to talk to your younger self?
100%. My favorite page on the book is the page where the little girl, it says, I hold my, I always forget it because I get like a little choked up about it because it's my favorite page. I hold my stretchy belly. It fills up big with air. I hold my belly while I breathe to show my belly that I care, because like one of the things that like I always felt like it's like I didn't want people to like touch my belly. And why? Like you're like, I don't want kids to feel like that. Like I want you to be able to, like, your belly can expand and be big with breath, with what is fueling your system, with what is delivering oxygen to all your cells. Like breathe in and fill your belly up and take up a little bit of space. Like that's so important to me. And I love that page for that reason.
Yeah. I did an interview a while ago with a woman named Ashley, meditation teacher. And she had talked about how to get past a lot of traumas that she had dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
She started writing letters to her younger self, sort of like victory letters. Yeah. And just sort of letting her younger self know, here we are.
Yeah.
A kind of evidence of, for some people, I think that's a great way to look at faith.
Yeah.
You want to believe in something? Look at where you are. Practice gratitude. Look back where you came from.
Yeah. Gratitude is huge for me. And that's another thing that like I really wanted to integrate for like teach the kids to be grateful, and to be grateful for your body. And it goes into talking about how your body is amazing and let's be grateful for our body, but it's not the best part of you. The best part isn't even something you can see. And it talks about your gifts and your special talents. But what's interesting is I think in order to serve others and to deliver your gifts and talents with the world, you have to take care of your physical body first.
Yeah.
Like you'll never be able to really like show up as your best self and deliver if you're not taking care of yourself. Just as like the more you take care of your physical body, the easier it will be to share your gifts, your talents, your whatever you're here to do in this world.
So as a mom now, like what is that dialogue for you like with your own child?
Huge on positive affirmations. I'm trying so hard to like just reiterate over and over and over again and build those neuro pathways in her head that she is strong, she is smart, she is brave, and she can do hard things. She can do anything that she wants in this world. We say that. I say it at night. We look in the mirror and we say it. I ask her, I say, can you say I'm smart, I'm brave? And I love positive affirmations and I think they work. I swear I do. Like I have ones that I say to myself all the time, like when I'm in a hard spot, like I can do hard things. That's something that I say to myself all the time. And I say it in kind of maybe situations that are like my body might think is hard, but something that I know I can get through. So like when I'm lifting heavy, I can do hard things. Or when I'm in the cold plunge, I can do hard things. Because then when I am in a challenging situation that maybe really is pretty challenging, I can do hard things. Yeah. I've proved it to myself before and I'm going to do it again. Like,
yeah, that's why I love working out in the morning.
Yeah.
Hard things every day.
Yeah.
Start your day doing something hard.
Get out of bed when it's dark.
Yeah. Or a cold plunge in the morning.
Yes.
Like my buddy Richard Mack, CrossFit Schenectady. I don't know if he's still doing it, but all of last year, that was his thing. Every single morning he would do a cold plunge.
Oh, Yeah,
every
that's
single
hard.
morning.
But it's amazing. That guy who cold plunge guys, Lou.
Yeah, Lou, amazing guy.
I will listen to him talk all the time, but he's like, it's just your ego. Like,
Yeah.
you're just scared to be cold. Like, just do it. You're going to be fine. And like, once you get over that, wow, like, it's just such a perspective change.
Yeah. And I've seen you do these cold plunges on some of your retreats
Yeah.
that you do. What have those been like for you to kind of go out intentionally on those retreats, lead them? Can you talk more about those experiences?
Of course, I love the retreats because, again, it marries my event industry experience with my fitness and wellness
Yeah, right
experience.
on the nose.
Yeah,
right on
so
the
I
nose.
can I create very curated schedules, experiences. One of the things I love to do is the night everybody gets here there, instead of an icebreaker, I ask everybody to tell me their favorite pump up song or their favorite song that always gives them good energy. And we go around and I add them all to a Spotify playlist. And then later on in the weekend, that's what's playing over the speakers and little things like that. I always try and give people new experiences that maybe they won't have at anywhere other than this retreat. So I have one coming up in a couple weeks, and we're going to be doing the cold plunge. Contrast is coming. So Danielle and Megan are coming, and I'm super excited about that. I have a somatic healing workshop happening. Her name's Helene. So that's like moving energy, blocked energy in the physical body through movement. And I've actually never done it, so I'm excited to try that too. We'll report back after. Okay. And YTK, my friend Catherine, she is a photographer, is going to come do a self-portrait workshop. So we're going to use iPhones to self-portrait, but not necessarily like selfie. Like that's not what it's about. It's about how getting artistic and creative, and how do you want to present yourself in a self-portrait. So maybe it doesn't show your face. But it's just, I don't know what it's going to be like, but I'm excited for that too.
Yeah, lots of fun, exciting stuff. I mean, one of my goals with this series of conversations and thinking about the idea of being built different is to kind of intentionally highlight choices to really prioritize fitness and wellness. Looking at your life now, all these investments you've made in yourself and prioritizing your fitness and your wellness, when you think back to your darkest days in college and reconciling some of the decisions you were making, like, what would you say to that younger version of Tommie based on where you are now?
Hold on, girl. Like, I mean, there are some times that like it was bad. I was a very, very sad person. And I really am proud of myself for pulling myself out of that, and for taking like little steps and doing things that are outside my comfort zone. And I think the more that you do stuff outside your comfort zone, the more you do stuff outside your comfort zone, and the more you start to trust yourself a little bit more. I think that was one of my other issues. I just like didn't trust myself. Like, and now I know that I have a good heart and good intentions, and like things are going to work out, and that helps me to put one foot in front of the other. And I just want that young girl to know that it's like there's happiness somewhere. There's happiness on the other side. And it's not every day, and it's not perfect, but it's sure hell of a lot better than where she was, for sure.
Yeah, I really believe success is born out of struggle.
Mm.
So when you think about what's next for you and kind of your future goals and aspirations, what do some of those look like for you?
I always say freedom is my biggest motivator, my biggest drive. Do you know your human design by any chance?
I should. I don't think I do offhand, but
okay.
I did light up a little bit when you talked about freedom. That's certainly one overarching goal for me.
Freedom
in all things.
That's how, like, that's my big drive. And so my human design is I'm a manifester, and a lot of times manifestors really like want to be kind of like alone and like make their own decisions. Like, it's very important to them to be able to have like autonomy about time, just like work, even, you know, like they're not people who like might thrive in a 9-to-5. It has to be like, I can work on this when my energy is here, and then take a break and then work and then take a break. So things like that. But the freedom to do that is really a big drive for me. The freedom to create my own schedule, the freedom to say yes to things that light me up and not have to do things that don't. The freedom, it's like time, financial, health, all the things come back to this idea of freedom, and that's what I'm working for. And one of the ways that I hope to find some, like in my career, is I'd really love to start getting into schools with my book. And I have booked a couple, I've been doing like mindfulness assemblies and just sharing my book with students and being a, almost like a step-in educator for this new idea of mindfulness. I think it's so important for kids, especially with like the access that they have to social media. It's a breeding ground for low self-esteem and low self-worth, and we have to counteract that. So
it's huge. I mean, in my other life as a political consultant and lobbyist, I'm always marveled at some of the specific issues now that become top line things. Like one of the biggest issues in the budget negotiations in New York State is a ban on cell phones in schools.
Really?
That's being considered.
I feel like, yes, they should do that, but that's getting a little political,
well,
I guess. But I just like,
you're in agreement with most New Yorkers. It pulls
Okay.
it pulls pretty well.
I just like the idea of like, oh my God, they just have way too much access to like their brains aren't fully developed enough to be dealing with this kind of like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oof.
Oh, it's wild. I mean, in even thinking of how, influencers within like male empowerment versus female empowerment. It's just, I think some of my favorite reels are the ones like making fun of like the female self-empowerment tactics versus like male. Because I feel like, to your point, like all the women influencers I follow are generally very positive, very affirming. Like, you got this, girl. Like all the comments, and guys are like, you are nothing until you're making $10 million a year. And
that's so funny because I never get any like that on my algorithm, so I didn't even know about the male empowerment.
It's just so different, and it's like there's some middle ground here. I think you can find that's a little bit healthier and a little more normal.
That's funny. Yeah, but I do just think like I want to work with getting like to me, I want to make a difference for both kids and parents, and like healing the self-confidence and the self-love, because I think that's the foundation of success in all different areas of your life.
One other thing I really wanted to ask you about, this is a concept I debate in my head all the time, is balance.
Yeah.
And balance is a big word for you.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
So what does it mean for you, Tommie, balance?
Yes. So balance, the initial thought of this was I was trying to find a word that integrated all my modalities. So yoga, Pilates, barre, what do you do in all of them? You find balance. So that's kind of where it started. And I was like, I don't know, like it needs something more. And what I found and what my heart kind of settled on is that when I'm talking balance, I'm not talking equal amount of time working or being at home. I'm not talking like equal amount of, it's not really about quantity. The balance that we're looking for is balance enough in our hearts and our minds and our bodies that we can go through life without being so tipped one way or the other through stress or like good things happening or bad things happening. We have to get to a place where like we're not teetering on the edge of either way, but finding our center, finding some grounding. And that's the balance. The balance is in here so that you can show up as your best self and not be overreacting or reacting to XYZ or trying to control things that you can't control. Like you need to find that internal balance in order to show up as your best self. And that's what I'm working towards. So whether that's exerting energy in fitness or physical practice, or you're finding balance in your mind in some calm moments in yoga, that's what the balance is. And then happy accident, James is a Libra. So her sun sign is scales and balance. And I thought that was just kind of a cute little ode to her. Like, right? Like she changed my life and really helped me to pull the trigger on my business and like going into this full time. So I love that my
Yeah.
little Libra has a little it's balance.
My only struggle with the concept of balance is sometimes I'll lean really heavily into kind of like the Tim Grover school of thought, who like wrote Relentless and Winning and comes from the self kind of empowerment world of being an NBA trainer, and he worked with Michael Jordan and Kobe.
Okay.
So he's this very, very male, very kind of centric. And so the only, I guess, question I have about balance sometimes is I feel like sometimes people obsess about this idea that
Mm-hmm.
they have to be like balanced in everything. And so they're never really able to focus intensively and obsessively on maybe one thing that if they did for a certain period of
Hmm.
time, they could really dominate at.
Yeah.
But I also see the other side of it where I know I've been guilty of that at times. And then you're trying to make something happen overnight that's not
Yeah.
going to happen overnight, that needs time to cook.
Yep.
So have you gone through the periods like that for yourself, or maybe you have to sort of find what your proper levels of energy are for various things in your life?
Yeah. I am a go get like when I get something on my mind or like then I'm like focused on like I want to do it and I want to do it now and I want to do it. Like I'm very like to-do lists or like somebody asked me to do something I want to do it right now. It's like almost like a um like sometimes I should let things settle before I make a move or an action. Like sometimes I think I frustrate people because like I get shit done too quick. Like they're like, could you just like chill for a second? Cause like I wasn't even sure I wanted to do that. And I'm like, no, it's already done. Like that's the kind of energy I have. And I've needed to step back from that and find balance in like giving things maybe a little bit of space and um letting things like not feeling like I have to do something at all times, all hours, all like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like
do.
reining in that energy.
Because I feel like, between the two of us, we have a lot of entrepreneurial
Mm-hmm.
mindset and instincts and things we want to do. But I think one thing that I feel, confident in, I know I've seen it with you, is the ability to have an idea, but also execute something.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people who are ideas people, or maybe very good at executing something, but they don't necessarily have the creative standpoint.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of energy to constantly put in to stuff. So you have to sustain yourself so you don't burn
Right.
out.
So you don't burn out. I know.
Yeah.
That's interesting too about like the human design. I would be interested to know because like the way that works is like so a manifestor is typically like an ideas person.
Yeah.
So they have like the fire and then someone like a manifesting generator is someone who helps them to get their ideas going and get them off the ground because you can't do it all. So it's just an interesting way to like look in to see like how you might work and if you're going to work on something with someone, looking at their human design and seeing like what's compatible. Just something
Yeah.
interesting to look into.
Maybe to kind of close out kind of our conversation, I feel like especially people more than ever are yearning to feel a sense of freedom.
Mm.
Paralyzed by anxiety, a sense of deeper meaning for what their life is going to be. And hopefully freedom would be that vehicle for them to
Yeah.
be able to achieve that. What's in your mind some tangible steps that people can really do who are thinking about that and want to make that a priority in their life to move towards feeling more free?
Mm. The first thing that comes to my head and is going to be, and I talk about this a lot too, but being mindful of what you're allowing into your space and into your energy and being free from things that are going to tear you down, things that make you feel negative, things that maybe put you in an energy that doesn't feel good. So the first thing I'm thinking of is like a social media diet. So being mindful of who you're following. What content are you absorbing? You're like scrolling through your phone all the time. What are you letting into your energy? And like, how is that affecting you? So I think being mindful of that, like if I'm looking through something and like it doesn't, if I'm like, if it's giving me energy that like I don't want, like unfollow, be done. Or like I can remember I was like going and looking at like fitness influencers who have probably had, not probably, 100% have had like the butt surgery like like, I remember a time when I was like, oh my God, how am I ever going to, like, how am I going to compete with that? Like, but like I was seeking out social media accounts to judge myself on, like, I'll never look like this. I'll never be, I'm like, unfollow, like, we're done with that. Now I'm mindful about what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, and what I'm taking in on social media. That's my first step in freedom from outside noise that doesn't make, no one else can give me like impact, or I don't want anybody to be able to impact me in that way on a daily basis, doing something I'm always doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like now I don't watch like super violent TV shows because I just like, it's not good. It just like not the energy I want. I want to like, and that's to me a choice I'm making to make myself more available for better things. That makes me feel free.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, I don't know if it's a little abstract, but
no, I think it's pretty tangible. I think we all have to be mindful about what we're reading, what we're watching. That's
like, it's so important to me.
Yeah. I think I would even expand on that too, thinking like, who are your friends?
Yes, 100%.
When I was thinking about my own fitness journey, and I continue to think about it, like, who are the people that I'm around? If you're the strongest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
Sometimes, great. It's awesome to feel like you're the strongest, smartest person.
Yeah.
But if you're always, if you're always feeling like you're that person, you are not in the right room.
Level up.
And you got to level up. You got to put yourself in places that are going to push you and really kind of light up the growth instincts that I think, because once you start, once you feel like you're growing, it's just, you become unstoppable.
You really do. There's just something about it. You get that little buzz that's like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I love it. Well, Tommie, thank you so much for coming in and sharing so much of your story, and just sharing some practical tips too for people and how they can build a life that's different and center their life on kind of a foundation of fitness and wellness.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this, and I'm really looking forward to see this grow.
Thanks, Tommie.